Traditionally, when we're working with the material editor, we have this as our viewport. While it works well under most circumstances, it can be a little bit difficult to use for certain materials. This flow map, for example, has high reflectivity, has some motion, and it's pretty dark, which means in our already dark scene, it makes it a little difficult to see what it's actually going to look like inside of our scene. Introduced in 4.18, we now have access to the Advanced Material Viewport. You can actually see it here with a different cube map effect. We have some background that's much cleaner and easier to see. It's also actually rotating. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these settings and get an overview and a highlight for how this works. So the Preview Scene settings can be accessed by going to Window, Preview Scene Settings. This is going to open this up, and by default you're going to have one profile with the default settings. I've gone ahead and adjusted a few of these, but we're going to cover how they work. Let's switch back to my city scene. You can see here my profile switcher, and it immediately switches back to an alternate scene. We can name our profiles here, and they'll go ahead and save them out. We can also add and remove profiles. These are great because, as you saw, I went from like a city scene to a sunset scene, so you can easily test out different settings to see what your materials will look like in different settings. We can change the directional light intensity as well as the directional light color if we so desire, as you can see here, depending on how our scene is going to look. We can also do the same thing with our skylight. Our rotate sky and if it let me directional lighting, wow, that's annoying, option just allows us to check it, and it auto rotates so we can view our cube map in all of its glory as it rotates around it. This can actually be adjusted down here under our rotation speed, so you can make it something slower, or you could make it something faster, depending on what you want to see as a preview. If you don't want to do that automatically, you can always manually adjust it with this toggle here. We can toggle on and off our environment as well as our floor, depending on what we want to see. And then we have our actual cube map here. Now by default, Unreal Engine comes with some cube maps, but they're hidden. They're under the engine content, which you can see right here. So if we go ahead and show our engine content, we now get access to a few different cube maps. And you can change through the different cube maps, as you can see here, and preview in different scenes. So let me go ahead and turn this back to our quad panorama for my day scene. Now below that we have a few other options. We can adjust the color grading of the scene. We can apply lens effects to the scene. We can adjust common rendering features, as you can see here, motion blur, ambient cube maps, and occlusion. But then we can also apply a full screen post-process material to the preview window to more reflect what it might look like when you're actually in the engine and your game is playing or your scene is being rendered and run. We do also have access to the tone mapper and mobile tone mapper if you wish. That is basically it for our advanced material preview window. Like I said, though, we have different profiles. Let's say, for example, I want to add another profile, and we'll call this one our desert scene. I could go in, we'll go and change the cube map to our desert. Let's give it a little bit of a skylight here. Let's make it more of like an orangish color like that. And then we'll set it to rotate. All of these settings will save. All of them will be saved to the profile itself. So now I could easily just go back to my sunset or my city scene, and everything is just how I left it. One nice feature of this, due to the fact that this is the material preview, it also does work in our instance materials. So as you can see here, I have my instance materials. I can access it the same way, window, preview scene settings. And we have access to all of the same things, including our profiles, inside of our material instance window.